10. Outbreak Company. Is the otaku culture non-existent in your community? Have you tried spreading the holy word of Huruhai throughout the streets? If you answered yes to these two questions, then you have a lot in common with the protagonist of this show, Shinichi. The only twist, of course, being that this otaku missionary is sent to a fantasy world in order to do his holy deed. It's a harem, it's a parody, and it's a comedy. For people who are just getting into the otaku culture, this show might seem extremely odd. But for us diehard fans, it's preaching to the choir. Number 9. My Next Life as a Villainous. All routes lead to doom. This feels like metagaming the anime. Our protagonist, Katarina, is reborn inside of a video game she used to play. However, she's born into the role of the Villainous, and she quickly regains her memory from her past life, meaning she knows she's evil and is going to die by the end of the campaign. So, she has to do her best to progress the story, but avoid ever reaching the conclusion in order for her head to remain on her shoulders. Again, the concept alone was enough to reel me in, and the cast of lovable characters only furthered my enjoyment. Number 8. The Ambition of Oda Nobuna. You don't often hear the words cute girls and historical battlefields uttered in the same sentence. But hey, that's what anime is here for. The Ambition of Oda Nobuna follows a guy named Yoshiharu who gets sent back in time. However, he quickly notices that this timeline of Japanese history has a few key differences, one of which being that all the warlords are cute girls now. So, he uses his knowledge of history, which he got from a video game of course, to predict battles and aid best girl Oda Nobuna in her conquest of conquering Japan. Number 7. Cautious Hero. The hero is overpowered but overly cautious. Isekai titles just really get to the point, don't they? So, yeah, the protagonist is extremely overpowered but is really cautious. How does that work as a plot hook? Extremely well, actually. The humor is very absurd, like the protagonist blowing up an entire village just because he wanted to make sure that he properly killed that level 1 slime, and very unpredictable. The secondary protagonist also has that Aqua vibe, and her voice actress is just top tier. Trust me, you will binge the show and leave with no regrets. Number 6. Restaurant to Another World. This show had no business being as good as it was. Instead of the usual grind/fight for survival plotlines we've all grown accustomed to, this show is literally just about running a restaurant. However, the twist is that the restaurant is like any other food establishment during the workdays, but on Saturdays, its doors open up to a fantasy world, and now you're suddenly serving a dragon their favorite meat or brandy. This show is pretty funny, the atmosphere is really relaxing, and I honestly have to give credit to whoever came up with this concept. Number 5. Ascendings of a Bookworm. If you don't feel like getting into another world domination/war plot setup, but still want that isekai sauce, then Ascendings of a Bookworm should suffice. The premises is honestly kind of unique in a way. It's just about a girl who loved to read so much that she got reincarnated and just continued to love reading. However, she's plopped into a fantasy world, so books aren't all that regularly available, and she has to get really creative with how she's going to get her fix. The show is pretty slice of lifey, but the execution is on point, so you get way more invested than you'd think. Number 4. Didn't I say to make my abilities average in the next life? People always say it's another overpowered protagonist, but never ask how is the overpowered protagonist. In this show, the protagonist is literally struggling from success, living her entire life alone and isolated as people envied her skills. So, when an opportunity arises to be reborn into a different world, she begs the heavens to make her completely average. But the heavens are complete trolls and make her a daughter of a noble with supreme magical abilities. So, she tries to be low-key with her powers in order to live the average life she always wanted, but that turns out to be a handful. Number 3. Recreators. You often hear how a certain writer brought their art into life. Well, Recreators took that both personally and literally. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, fictional characters start to spring up into the real world with their personalities and powers intact. And at first, it was all beloved good guys. But then a certain top hat wearing lady starts offing characters in their own shows, and our protagonists need to find a way to stop her. But they soon learn that the relationship between author and creation is a lot more complex than they originally thought. Number 2. I'm Standing on a Million Lives. This show tries to innovate the Isekai formula in two major ways. Firstly, randomness is a key feature, as the game master who sends our protagonist to this world basically flips a coin to determine certain stats. This is how we get a party that consists of a warrior, mage, and farmer. Secondly, the characters get to go in and out of the universe, meaning there are essentially two plot lines. Like a few shows on here, it falls under dumb fun, so don't expect to find the meaning of life within the show. But don't completely gloss over it either. Number 1. Knights and Magic. Have you noticed that there's one anime trope that has yet to appear on this list? That's right, baby! Don't tell me you thought mechs weren't gonna find a way into this genre. Aside from the mechs, this show is pretty standard. Male protagonist forms a group with two girls, they go to a magical high school to learn how to fight the bad guys, they fight said bad guys, the end. But man, do the mechs look cool! Even the training ones give the show its unique futuristic feel.